Hey there, this is Josh Wilson here on the campus of Huntington University. You're listening to Rooted. Make sure you subscribe to Rooted on iTunes or Google Play. You can find us by searching Forrester Radio Rooted. And you can catch Rooted every Thursday evening at 7 at 105.5 WQHU. Norris Friesen, thank you for joining me.
It's good to be here, Josh.
Yeah, so why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your role on campus here.
Well, I'm currently working in campus ministries. I work with the campus ministries coordinator program, the peer-to-peer discipleship program in the residence halls, and I also advise the Friesen Center for volunteerism. We also work with some of the off-campus trips, especially for spring break, and I do a little teaching on the side too.
What specific roles does the Friesen Center do? And if you don't mind me asking, how did you get it named after you?
It's a great question. The Friesen Center emerged, or kind of came about, in my first couple of years that I was on the faculty and administration at Huntington University. We received a grant for student volunteerism to mobilize students to get involved in the community, and with this grant, we were able to launched the center. At that point, it was named after the person who was honored in the grant. His name was Joe Mertz. So it carried the name Joe Mertz Center for several years, and we were able to elevate the level of student service, or students getting involved in service opportunities considerably with this grant. About 6 or 7 years ago, the president, Dr. Dowden, retired from Huntington University, and one of the things that he wanted to do was to recognize my involvement with service in Huntington University over the years, and so he renamed the center for the Friesen Center for Volunteerism. As it happened, I ended up advising also the center, so it's kind of odd having a center named for yourself and also being kind of one of the people involved in it. But the main purpose of the Friesen Center is to mobilize students, to get them involved in service opportunities in the community, and in some ways, and maybe even beyond the campus, through international trips or trips during spring break.
So you've obviously done a lot of service in your life. How would you define it, and why in particular does it mean so much to you?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess as a Christian, I've always felt that it's been in a consistent kind of theme for me, that to be a follower of Christ means to love your neighbor as yourself, and to be engaged in opportunities to help others. And I see that as a primary focus, I guess, of my life as a Christian. I think for a Christian college like this, it should be part of our DNA, which it kind of has become. We should look at the opportunities around us as unique, and if we're not really aware of the needs of others, it really becomes kind of a bubble in a sense, in that we become more selfish and more self-centered. Mm-hmm. And I think that's opposite, or not really consistent with the gospel either. I guess I look at the gospel as kind of an upside-down kingdom, that we are often taught or learn that power and that climbing the ladder is success, and I think in God's economy, it's more about how can I become available to others, to be used and to serve others, and to use that as a vehicle to share the good news of the gospel. So I guess that's been part of my experience, is that I've really felt that is where I have been called, I guess, or where I have felt my need to buy into the gospel, in terms of how do we put feet to it, how do we operationalize it or make it a reality in our lives.
Now, was there an initial spark ever? Was there a particular mission trip you went on, or maybe it was something else that sparked your joy of service?
I guess I would say that I grew up in a tradition where alternative service or voluntary service was considered an option, a viable option. And I suppose in some ways, when I was in college, I had the opportunity, or I was confronted with the option of doing military service or to do alternative service. And again, I chose to do alternative service because I felt that was more consistent with what Jesus would do. He would not necessarily become part of a military effort to eradicate or to seek out and to kill, but he would be more aligned with an effort that would seek out to provide help and assistance and meet the needs of people. And so I sought to do alternative service, or to work with, to use my time instead of serving in the military to serve in a volunteer capacity. And so my wife and I, committed to a 2-year term of service, working in, as it was in Germany. And we worked in a home for mentally and physically challenged individuals and kind of as psych hospital aides. And so I suppose those 2 years of service really did kind of, I guess, really make a difference in my life in terms of saying that's something I want to emulate throughout my life and throughout my career. And so I guess that was more or less the impetus for getting involved in really encouraging others to be involved in service opportunities.
I did not know that. That's very cool. Is that how you know German so well now?
Well, that was part of it. Yeah, certainly had a big influence on my ability to learn it. Was maybe a little bit of the impetus of why we wanted to go to Germany. But yeah, as it turned out, it worked out really well, and I was able to leverage my ability or my interest in wanting to learn German.
So you're still actively involved with the Friesen Center. Could you tell me why you think that service is so important for college students?
Martin Luther King said, Jr. said, everyone can be great because anybody can serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. And I think that quote really captures it for me, that a lot of students will seek a career, obviously, a career goal at Huntington, and they will get a major, but how else do you contribute to a community, or how else do you get involved? And I think that begins to separate you from everybody else who has a degree, so to speak. Communicating this heart full of grace and a soul generated by love, really a sense of wanting to reach others and to share that, I think becomes a unique point of one's college degree, I guess. And I think of it sometimes as a blank resume. Everybody's going to have a name, everybody's going to have a degree, everybody's going to have a career objective, and then there are going to be a couple honors or things that you were involved in, but what else is going to separate you from everybody else? And I think the opportunities that one takes to serve and to invest in others really does say a lot about one's character and really does set one apart. So I think that's a primary issue. Plus, we have a great resource here in Huntington of close to 1,000 students, and we have a lot of different ways we can impact our community. And I think we oftentimes think of money being a primary investment, but the hours served can be significant too. I think a lot of people are beginning to see or to experience, how we can help others other than just with a financial gift.
What would you say to somebody who feels that they're being called into service, but maybe they don't feel like they have the time right now to do it, or that they aren't, for whatever reason, they aren't able to?
I think we all have time for what's important.
Mm-hmm.
We all get 168 hours a week. We get 24 hours a day. Nobody gets any more, nobody gets any less. We all get a chance to divide that up and to choose as to how we're going to spend that time. There is a priority of certain things that we will identify, but then there's a lot of discretionary time too. Even committing to 1 or 2 hours a week, I think just about anybody can carve that much time out to spend either with kids or with elderly people, or on a Saturday, for example. This coming Saturday, we're working with Habitat for Humanity in Huntington. They are launching a new house, and we're looking for 10 students, volunteers, to volunteer for an hour and a half on Saturday. So it's not a real significant need, but we're hoping that hour and a half maybe will lead to other hours and a half,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak, and students will get find other opportunities involved with this project and in our community. So I think that it's not necessarily, maybe it's more an issue of scheduling, I guess, rather than whether we have time or not. We all have time. It's just a question of what are we going to do if we don't do that.
Yeah, that's certainly been the truth for me. I know I wasn't involved too much with service when I was in high school. Here, kind of like you, my spark was like initiated through things like Fall Work Day and last year going on the Houston trip to do hurricane relief. But yeah, like you said, it's everybody can make time to do it, I think. So yeah, I want to thank you, Nori, for joining me here today on Rooted. You've obviously impacted the campus quite a lot, and I think you've spoken to a lot of spoken truth into a lot of people on this campus and help them grow in their faith and in their service towards God. So,
Thanks,
yeah.
Josh.
Thank you, Nori, for joining me on this episode of Rooted. And thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to Rooted on iTunes and Google Play. And remember, you can listen to Forester Radio over the air in Huntington on 105.5 WQHU or stream us anytime, anywhere on the Radio FX app. Stay rooted, HU.